Live, this is the 6 o'clock report from Channel 6 Eyewitness News. With Clayton Vaughn, meteorologist Jim Giles, and Bill Teagan, sports.
Good evening. This is the first Eyewitness News 6 o'clock report. The CBS Evening News with Dan Rather has moved to 5:30, and over the next half hour, we will be here with a comprehensive report on local and regional news, the sports and weather, and an update on today's top national and world news. As you heard on CBS, Egypt is still officially angry with the U.S. over the interception of the suspected hijackers of the Achille Lauro, and an apology has been demanded from President Reagan. No comment from the White House. And 2 American doctors have won this year's Nobel Prize in Medicine for their studies of cholesterol-related diseases. Locally, we'll be looking this half hour at the heavy rains that drenched our area today and some of the flooding that those rains produced. And we'll have the day's first report from Randy Lewin, just back from Ethiopia, and the delivery of Project Offer grain. Now, today's top story. Today was the last day to file for a pari-mutuel horse track license with the State Racing Commission, and as of right now, there are no applications on file from any Tulsa developers. Story today, and is with us in the newsroom for an update. Jill?
Well, Clayton, we have had some last-minute changes, but as you said, today's deadline was part of the Horse Racing Commission's controversial decision to allow only one major pari-mutuel track in Oklahoma. That track will be located near a major population center, which most people are interpreting to mean only Oklahoma City or Tulsa. At the moment, as you said, there were no applications on file for the Tulsa area. I talked with Jack Boyd, the executive director of the commission, today, and he says applications will be taken as long as they are posted.
Commission meet to go over the applications on file?
Well, they officially will meet again on Thursday, but it isn't expected that the commission will make a decision on where that one major track will go until January.
All right, Jill. Thank you. The slow-moving thunderstorms have finally made their way out of northeastern Oklahoma, but the runoff is causing problems in some areas. The National Weather Service has issued a flood warning for the Deep Fork River in Lincoln, Creek, and Okmulgee counties. During one 24-hour period, more than 9 inches of rain fell in some parts of the Deep Fork Basin. Authorities report the river is out of its banks this evening near Chandler and will continue to go up over the next 2 days. The Weather Service is urging ranchers who live in the floodplain south of Beggs to move cattle and machinery to higher ground just as soon as possible. The Deep Fork River is expected to crest at 24 feet Wednesday. That would put a lot of pasture land under about 6 feet of water. The heavy rain caused problems throughout northeastern Oklahoma today. Near Haskell this morning, Ash Creek rose out of its banks and flooded out a county road. Here in Tulsa, flooding was much less severe and mostly limited to some intersections that became impassable early in the morning. Locally, heavy rainfall blocked some streets until storm sewers could handle the runoff. The Office of Stormwater Management says that all the creeks in the Tulsa area stayed within banks and that low-lying areas drained almost as soon as the rain slowed down. Elsewhere, Oklahoma Senator Don Nichols says the U.S. is facing a massive problem regarding the trade imbalance between this country and the rest of the world. While Congress is considering about 300 bills to solve that problem, Nichols came here to Oklahoma to get the local businessman's viewpoint. Among those on hand for the public forum, Oklahoma Wheat Commission Chairman Walter Trade, but we have to make sure the solutions don't end up doing more harm than good. It could force some nations to take their business elsewhere. Oklahoma wheat sent to Africa through Project Offer has reached its goal. Up next, an exclusive look at the arrival of that grain.
L&M Office Furniture announced...
Taste great values.
Tonight and every night for at least the next month, thousands of Ethiopians are going to be fed thanks to the generosity of Oklahomans. The dream known as Project Offer, Oklahoma Food for Ethiopian Relief, is now a reality. Eyewitness News reporter Randy Lewin and photographer Paul Stott are just back from Africa, where they followed the project to its successful conclusion. Here's the first in their series of reports.
Sundown, Shoa Province, Ethiopia. A line of trucks heads up a twisting mountain road, symbolizing the acceptance of an offer of help. It begins almost 6 months ago. Oklahomans see the pictures and hear the stories of mass famine in Ethiopia. Hundreds of thousands dead, millions dying. Project Offer is born. Over $160,000 is raised, 272 tons of grain bought and shipped across the ocean. For the kids at Will Rogers Elementary who made paper hearts, and the businesses that contributed items for auctions, and the communities like Chakota that contributed, this is where your money went. Project Offer Grain has reached Ethiopia. The road to the hungry is long and bumpy. Green mountains are replaced by crops that will fail due to lack of water. Here, Project Offer becomes Project Success. This portion of the grain shipment will feed 4,000 people for a month. The distribution is handled by the Save the Children organization and takes place in the new home of a band of nomads called the Afar. The Afar have stopped wandering because their people and their animals are dying of hunger.
When we first came to these Afar, they couldn't, a lot of them were sitting in the shade and didn't want to come up. The mothers were sitting there nursing dying children. And you see them today. And it's a really satisfying feeling.
We didn't have the strength even to dig and bury them. They were just, we just left them astray for the crows and the birds and so on.
An Afar named Dubino says receiving the grain is like coming out of the darkness.
Yes, he says he has lost a lot of his friends, a lot of his family. And now he says the moment the grain first arrived, the first day the grain arrived in this site, he said, we didn't cry for the dead people, but for those who didn't get this chance. Yes, his way of putting it. But he said, we only thank nature or God or whomever guided you people to bring the grain here.
No amount of grain will solve Ethiopia's monumental problems, but at this particular moment, for families like Dubino's, this Oklahoma hard red winter wheat is everything. Randy Lewin, Channel 6 Eyewitness News, Askefen, Ethiopia.
Now, the first week of November, Randy will be presenting a series of reports detailing the current conditions in Africa and talk, too, about the surprisingly long-lasting ties between Ethiopians and Oklahomans. A Tulsa man who is from Ethiopia and who has been in this country for 10 years, Abe Altai, has joined us here in the studio this evening. Mr. Altai, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Don't be amazed at your picture on the television there, but I wanted to see what your reaction was to seeing those scenes from your original homeland.
Well, this thing started a long time in 1975. During at that time, Haile Selassie, he was emperor at that time.
Yes.
And everything was kept kind of secret. And finally, as a result of that, and it came about a revolution, which of course, most of it is man-made starvation because people have overgrazing in animals, and also by the same token, the forestry almost abandoned by burning it, and so all this environment created that kind of hardship. Of course, mostly the drought that they didn't have rain for 4 or 5 years.
But by man-made, you mean that, excuse me, that improper management of overgrazing the pasture land and burning the forests?
Yes, using everybody, they cook and they burn woods. As a result of forestry, the forests that we used to have, it almost vanished. Mm-hmm. It became a bare land.
What are your thoughts when this has been receiving a great deal of news coverage now over the past year or something? Yes. As a man who used to live there and still has family there,
yes.
What are your thoughts when you see something like that?
Well, when I see something that like this, it makes me cry in a lot of time. But the point here is that as long as there are people who care, like the people here in Oklahoma who are Christian loving people, that to some extent help. But my personal opinion about this is unnecessary tragedy, man-made tragedy.
Mr. Altai, thank you for being with us, and I hope you'll be watching our reports, and perhaps we can both, and all of us, can learn a little bit more about your homeland. Thank you for being with us tonight. We'll have the weather in just a moment.
McLean, on The Next America, we're going to reveal one of the greatest secrets of the universe.
Really? What's that?
How to buy just about everything wholesale.
Ooh, my wallet is listening.
You'll discover how to actually spend less while you're buying a whole lot more. Plus, Benson's Robert Guillaume shows off his extraordinary singing skill. And direct from the Cannes Film Festival, it's a look at some of the world's favorite TV commercials, all coming up on The Next America.
Today at 4 on Channel 6.
It's too bad we don't have a dog groomer, one Helen Walschlager, here in Tulsa rather than up in St. Louis where she lives, so that she could tell us how this winter is going to be here in northeast Oklahoma. She forecasts the winters for St. Louis by the coloring of the woolly caterpillar, and the prediction is for a mild winter, for St. Louis at least. She claims to have accurately forecast 14 of the last 15 winters by the caterpillar method. Says the nice wide gold bands on this year's crop of caterpillars shows this winter will be about like last winter. The only thing she is unsure of, she says, is the orange tips on the caterpillars this time. She says that could mean tornadoes in December in St. Louis. Now with an explanation of why that all works.
Whoa.
Of why that works.
You know, I'm just amazed at things like that, and I'm really interested in that. But really, animals, whether it be woolly worms or horses, etc., they're really reflecting the weather we've had.
That's right.
Not the weather we're going to have.
Well, I know. And she says the winter is going to be pretty much like last winter. That's probably a pretty safe guess. You could say the same thing for anything, I suppose.
That's exactly what I'd say about our winter, pretty much like last year. And
what about all this rain today, Mr. G?
Well, I'm very
happy. Got drowned here.
I'll tell you, it's been a real wild night, and even early today. It looks to me like the rains are about to let up. Very, very light now tonight, tomorrow. The bad news is, I'm afraid we're going to have rain off and on right on through Friday. That's the way it's looking right now. Let me share with the folks the current conditions here in the Tulsa area. As you well know, there's some light drizzle reported out there right now. 61 degrees, 97%. That's our current relative humidity. A light northerly wind, and the barometer steady at 29.94 inches of mercury. Let's talk rain for just a moment. We had 64 hundredths of an inch of rain yesterday. That makes it 1.82 inches. Add to that 1.82 inches today. So for the past 36 hours, we've had about 2.46 inches of rain. It's been a very, very wet period. For the month, we've had more than twice the normal as of today's date for the month of October, and we're more than 8 inches above normal for this time of year. Let me show you what's going on. It's this front. It's moved through the Tulsa area, if you recall, about Friday, and is just absolutely stalled over that southeastern corner of the state. Looks to me like it's going to stay there for the next several days, kind of But down to the south of us, over Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and then up along that frontal zone towards the Great Lakes, there's where we find our scattered showers and thunderstorms. Let's take a look now at our precipitation pattern around the area. Spotter rainfall reports 2.4 inches officially at the airport, but look at Beggs. 10.7 inches down there. Ogmogi, Larry Biddle, says he's about to think of breaking out the arc. 8.3 inches over there. In Wagner, 6.3 inches, and so it goes. The heaviest amounts just south and east of the Tulsa area, and that's the area, of course, where we're worrying about flooding. Many of those counties down through that area, of course, experiencing some lowland flooding. So if you live in those zones, do be very, very careful. Looks like at least it's settled down for now, just the runoff, of course, coming through for the next several days. Let me show you the forecast at this point. Through the evening hours, I'm going to go with cloudy and foggy, occasional very light rain and drizzle for us. No additional accumulation, mid-60s, sundown at 6:49. And then going overnight, again, cloudy, foggy, occasional light rain or drizzle, northerly winds. 55 our overnight low. Tomorrow morning, more of the same. It looks like it's just going to continue cloudy, foggy with occasional very light rain and drizzle. Temperatures in the low 60s. Sun up tomorrow morning at 7:33. Tomorrow afternoon, I must still say, a chance of rain, but those heavier amounts and more numerous showers will be off to the east and south of us. Again, the outlook now for the next several days, we're going to stay on the mild side, but I've got to say there's a chance of rain each and every day through about Friday.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Weather is causing some delays for the baseball playoffs, and area college football teams get back to work after another weekend of mixed results. Bill Tegans with more up next in sports.
On October 20th, Tulsa will become a safer and more secure place to live and work. The Hero Network.
Independence is the motto of your hometown Cooper Tire dealer. That independence.
Well, never mind. Well, Bill and I were just talking about the baseball this afternoon. Lots of big news. Here's Mr. Teagan.
Lots of excitement. Thank you. Cardinals and the Dodgers, Game 5 of their best-of-7 National League Series today. The Cardinals again today without Vince Coleman, who was still out with that leg injury. But again today, they did not need him. Cardinals jumped on top first inning. Tommy Hurst singles past Madlock. Willie McGee will come around to score. Ozzie Smith is behind him. He runs right through the stop sign at third. He scores too. Inning yesterday. Didn't get a hit, but his ground ball off Jimmy Key was enough to score Lonnie Smith, who had doubled, and the Royals were on top 1-0. Second inning, Frank White lays down a beautiful bunt down the third base line. He beats the throw, and Steve Bye-Bye Balboni follows with only his second hit of the series. We love that guy. Royals went on to win it 2-0, the final Game 6 tomorrow night in Toronto. What a crazy weekend for college football for the area teams. Arkansas won as expected, but for the other Big Four teams, they came out of Saturday's games looking a lot different than when they went in. Bob Stevens has a report.
The Sooners went into the Texas game thinking they were pretty good.
Iowa's still number 1. OU drops to 3 for some reason from 2. Arkansas is 4 and OSU 12. We'll look at it all at 10.
All right, thank you, Bill. And we're going to be back in a moment with today's top news, a look ahead at 10, and some comments from the viewers about the Achille Lauro hijacking.
Clothing for Eyewitness News provided by Harold's.
Now there's something better than a home improvement center. It's Mill Creek, and what an improvement Mill Creek makes.
Today's top story, Egyptian officials up to and including President Mubarak professing anger at the U.S. interception of the alleged hijackers of the Achille Lauro and demanding a U.S. apology. President Reagan isn't apologizing, he's not even commenting. Here in Oklahoma, heavy rainfalls last night and early today causing lowland flooding along some rivers and creeks, and the threat of more if more rain should fall on already soaked watersheds. And the State Horse Racing Commission's deadline for applications for parimutuel racetracks passed this evening at 5. Those with a today postmark will be accepted. Tonight at 10 on Eyewitness News, Wendy Burkeen looks at the problem of robbery and what you can do to protect yourself and your family. Finally, time for some of the mail from the viewers. The first letter this evening from Randall Knowles of Tulsa. Dear Clayton, the PLO and the Islamic peoples of this world have been a thorn in our side for years, and yet we still do nothing. Americans cannot perform diplomatic, not to mention vacation functions in that part of the world without constant fear for their lives. The American people will, sooner or later, take things into their own hands. They always have and always will. It is time for this to end, either over there or here in our own streets. If we kill every terrorist who is killing our people, sooner or later they will learn their lesson and stop, or they will run out of people. And there is this from C.B. Forrest of Tulsa. Dear Mr. Vaughn, we must get the hijackers back here where they can be tried by our judicial system that after possibly 5 or 10 years of delays might put those rascals in the institution that houses Sirhan Sirhan, the poor refugee who assassinated Bobby Kennedy. Surely we can dig up another $250,000 or more to keep another 4 misguided terrorists alive and well for who knows how long. Let's pay some of the Italian mafia to fit them with oversized concrete shoes and let them walk back to the ship that they took hostage. Good night.